Thank you for having me. Thank you for joining us today. I really do appreciate this opportunity that I have to talk to you about this idea of working on purpose. And today I'd like to share with you 4 secrets to connect who you are with what you do. But first I have a question. Have you ever met someone who is clearly fulfilled by their work? Because many people are not. They go through their careers like passengers on a bus with scenes flying by the windows for mile after mile, and seatmates come and go. There are opportunities to get off the bus at regular intervals, and yet the hum of the road dulls their senses, and soon they're lost. Their personal plans and dream destinations have long since passed. That happened to me. For 20 years, I built what I'd considered a successful career working in the legal field and for publicly held companies. And I thought that as long as my work went to help meet the expectations of the board of directors and the shareholders of those companies, and I made the person that I reported to look good, then I made good money and I felt valued. I really had no regard for other stakeholders in those organizations. But in 2005, I had an epiphany. I was driving to work one morning. I worked about 20 miles south of my home, and I was listening to the radio, sitting in rush hour traffic, and I heard something on the radio that caught my ear. One of our clients had just released their first quarter earnings, and they said that they had made a net income of $8 billion. Now, that was a record for the company at the time and also represented a 44% increase over the same period for the year before. And I had mixed emotions about this news. At first I thought, wow, that's our client. That is a huge number. I contributed to that. And then I thought, wow, that's our client. That is a huge number, and I contributed to that. And then I started thinking about, what are my 20 years of education and skills and experience really contributing to at all? And then I asked myself, am I having a positive impact? That 20-mile drive to and from work in rush hour traffic really started to weigh on me. And for the first time in my career, the idea of placing prestige or having a career for the sake of prestige was just not as fulfilling. And that drive just seemed to get longer and longer every day, and it started to take a toll on my health. I started by helping myself to the box of donuts on Fridays, and that turned into daily visits to the snack machine, and soon I gained weight and I stopped exercising. But worst, I lost my enthusiasm for being a star player, and I knew that I had to make a change. So one evening I was driving home again in very slow rush hour traffic, and I thought, okay, what do I want out of a job? This has to be something radically different than anything I've ever done before in terms of looking for a job, because it's not going to be just for a little more money or to be a little bit higher up on the rung of a ladder. So what's the essence of what I want out of a job? And by the time I got home, I had boiled it down to just 4 things. I wanted to work close to home. I was tired of being part of that crazy rush hour traffic every morning and every evening. That was taking 10 hours out of my week at least. And so I thought, if I really work at it, I can find something closer to home. I wanted to report directly to the CEO because I had done this before, and I knew that I had the skills and experience to help a CEO put his or her vision into action. I wanted to make as much or more money than I currently made, because I didn't think that I should have to give up or have my family sacrifice home after work, fire up my laptop, and look for this job. And I did this for months. And then finally, I got a call. And this was for a job that was not in a legal firm, and it was not for a publicly traded company. It was for a manufacturing company. Now, I know absolutely nothing about manufacturing at the time, but I thought, well, it reports directly to the CEO and 4 miles from my house, and they knew what my salary requirements were. So I thought, okay, that's 3 out of the 4 checks off my list, so I'm going to go to this interview. So it turns out that this company manufactured radio communications equipment. So the morning of the interview, I'm sitting in the lobby getting ready, I had my resume all together, and I was sitting there in my little tailored suit, and I started to, the idea, the reality of placing purpose over prestige really started to sink into me, because I was in completely unfamiliar territory. I mean, I was used to reception areas that were beautifully decorated with gorgeous solid oak bookshelves with leather-bound volumes and artwork on the walls and plush carpeting and rich colors. And this room was nothing like that. It had an industrial-looking veneer, and the floors were kind of shiny waxed, and I was really uncomfortable. And I thought, what am I doing here? I don't belong here. I don't know what I was thinking. And every minute that went by, I fought the urge to get up and walk out and get back into my car and drive back into the parking garage of the law firm and just forget about this purpose nonsense. But just within the next hour, I found myself chatting comfortably with the CEO of this company. And just a few minutes into our conversation, he started to tell me about his dream of having a different kind of company. Yes, they manufactured radio communications equipment, but he also wanted to create a different kind of culture with a very special mission and purpose. And then he told me what that mission and purpose were. And here's the words he said: to be a self-sustaining, profitable communications company which positively impacts the lives of others today and in the future. And the minute he said those words, I knew that, as uncomfortable and unfamiliar as my surroundings were, that I was in exactly the right place, that I was meant to be in the universe in that moment. I worked for that company for 6.5 years. I started as the executive assistant to the CEO, and I learned everything I could about manufacturing, which was fascinating, and communications equipment. And I also learned about this idea of servant leadership, because that's the kind of culture that the CEO wanted to create there. And I was lucky enough to find the Ken Blanchard EMBA program at Grand Canyon University. I enrolled in that program, and it was a great opportunity to study the core coursework of MBA material, but it was also infused with this concept of servant leadership, or leading for the sake of others, and using your position not just to make yourself better, but also to help the people around you get better. So as soon as I graduated from the program, I was promoted to Director of Strategic and Operational Planning. And I used my position every day to help the people in the company connect what they were doing with their daily jobs with what we were trying to achieve with our mission and purpose. And I can tell you that I was clearly fulfilled by my work. By setting aside my fears and listening to what was happening inside me, I was able to connect the dots of who I was with what I did for a living. My goal for you today is to help you connect the dots for yourself. Because whether you're a senior level employee or an entry level employee, I submit that by reframing your career identity from how can I make a living to how can I contribute will help you to find the passion in your work and positively impact the lives of all those you meet along the way, and many you may never know.